There's Cliff.
Evolving with the cosmos. The cosmos is full beyond measure of elegant truths, of exquisite interrelationships, of the awesome machinery of nature. The surface of the earth is the shore of the cosmic ocean. On this shore, we've learned most of what we know. Recently, we've waded a little way out, maybe ankle deep, and the water seems inviting. Some part of our being knows this, is where we came from. We long to return, and we can, because the cosmos is also within us. We're made of star stuff. We are a way for the cosmos to know itself. Carl Sagan.
Ah, fantastic. Thank you ever so much, Carolyn. Welcome everyone to Gems from the Wisdom Traditions, a conversation circle that we sponsor here from Still and Moving Center every Saturday afternoon to take up conversational topics of significance. And all of these topics come from the Still and Moving Center Almanac, which we have a new one every year. And the quote that we read at the beginning is the quote for the entire year, which happens on the back of the almanac and is this year, evolving with the cosmos. We are taking up this week the topic of the real and the unreal. And I think that it's a topic that helps keep us out of smugness, helps keep us from, thinking, well, of course, don't we all know that? Well, maybe not. Maybe there's a question. And I am really pleased to reintroduce really to you, Greg Hatton, a friend of Still and Moving Centers for a number of years, and who has presented here on, I think, 2 different occasions in the past to talk to us from his professional experience going back decades in the tradition of film cinematography as well as in photography. And there is a film out by the really, really famous and well-respected Japanese director Akira Kurosawa called Rashomon. It was such an important film that it has an effect named after it, the Rashomon effect, that's evidently used in filmmaking. And it seemed that that might be a really good starting point for having a conversation on this topic of the real and the unreal, since it is the topic that Kurosawa takes up in this film of Rashomon. It would take a long time for me to go into the length and breadth of Greg's career. I think I'm going to let him speak for himself and take us away on this journey that we're going to go on to, seeing if we can get a little insight into the real and the unreal. Greg, take it away.
Hello, everybody. Good to see all of your faces. Brother Cliff. Mary, it's good to see you as well. It's been a little while. You as well, Carolyn. Deshaun, I haven't met you yet. I'm Greg Haddon, photographer, filmmaker, all of that good stuff. And I don't want to spend too much about what I've done because I think that this topic is really interesting and really important. I don't know. We've all been watching movies, for our lives. Like that's where we got a lot of our imagination explored. And there's so many different ways to take in the stories that come at us. And we learn a lot from these classical film directors. And one of them, as Renee just stated, is Akira Kurosawa. And he's a monumental director. but he's also a monumental humanist in his art form. And it's very interesting to see how he presents that in his work. Are you guys familiar with the movie Rashomon? You haven't seen it, Mary? Okay, so basically, oh, there's two Marys now. Yes, and I see hugs being given.
We call her Mariange.
Mariange,
Yes, Mariange
very good,
Huberzaks.
very good. To give you guys just a really quick overview of what the movie is, for those of you who have not seen it, um, the movie is about a pretty bad event that happens along the country road, and it's being told to the court basically, from the perspective of the eyewitnesses that were there. But the stories don't match, not one of them, and all of the people were there. So the question then becomes, how do you discern, the truth? Like what is the truth between these four people that are, basically they weren't just eyewitnesses, they were participants in what happened. And the struggle to figure out how to get out the truth is what this film is all about. What's being showcased in the practice of this movie making is Kurosawa was actually kind of like highlighting something that we all don't really know that we do. And basically there's an implicit bias that we all have that's built upon where we come from, what we've done in life, what kind of traumas we've had, what kind of anything. And that really informs a lot of how we interpret the world and what we see every single day. So the struggle of that was what was being showcased in this film. This is a feature-length movie, so you're there for 2 hours watching real life reenactments of what this situation was, and you get to the end of the movie, and you're hoping to really reach some kind of resolution to the thought and to find out what actually happened, but that's not really offered because it really can't be. So if you dig in deeper to this, as Renee said, this movie has created a lot of interest in the concept of the Rashomon effect, and other movies have been written about it. They use this in the court of law now, when we're talking about dealing with you know eyewitness accounts and just trying to figure out what the story actually is. All of this stuff is coming from this movie that was from the 50s. And it's a fascinating thing because the movie is actually highlighting a human phenomenon. This is something that we all do. And that's kind of the part that's making it really deep for me. This is a very deep um, topic for me because in doing the research, I saw myself and my friends and family every step of the way, but then seeing it in the film basically opened up a different perspective for me to actually take in what I might not have seen before. So that brings us really to the purpose. For me, I want to like put this in the guise of art, really, and kind of talk about how art and artists are so valuable to us in this time and all throughout time. Um, my friend Safir, who is on this call right now, he and I spoke about this just earlier, and how, inherently a lot of us, we get frustrated in our own way of being and in the world that we're living in, just because we feel like there's more to life than what we see and what we're doing, or the nasty things that happens in life. We know that's not supposed to be the way it is, and we know that it can be so beautiful. We kind of lost touch with that a little bit, but art in every format, filmmaking, photography, music, um, cooking, dancing, painting, every type of art form, the artists among us are the ones that reach out into what can be and try to bring a bit of that back so that we can see it and digest it. That's what's happening in this film. And most of Kurosawa's movies there's a pretty dark content to them. Like what you're watching is pretty heavy stuff, but the story that he's telling, the deeper story, and what he's really encouraging people to do with his work is to look deeper into what you're seeing with a different perspective to understand how that example might show you something in yourself, something in the person next to you, something in life in general, and help you to process this reality that we're living in. Because by and large, most of the times, the reality that we're struggling with might not necessarily be real. It's fascinating and it's very deep. I don't think we have enough time, honestly, to go through everything that I've learned since studying up for this talk, but it's very, very, very deep. Before we go today, I'm gonna leave you guys with something that I'd love for you to watch. It's basically kind of talks about the work that Kurosawa did and his approach to filmmaking. Um, but the the no problem, Sophia, and I know that Frank and Monir had to jump off. Um, but no, it's fascinating to see um, the craft of a person dedicated to basically telling a story to help people understand a little bit more about their life, more about life in general, and the parallel that we're kind of seeing in our own lives. It's like that's kind of what we all are doing when we're practicing our dances, when we're practicing our cooking for friends and all this. Like we're all trying to tap into this energy that exists, that's a little bit outside of the bad moments that are happening in the day, that are outside of the traumas that you see in the world. And it's basically us trying to transform what's quote unquote real and what's out of touch, that what might not be so far away, but we can touch it. Like that's literally what we're doing from day to day. There's I have a couple of notes here that I wanted to go over. It's First of all, Cliff, I wanted to ask you a question. Um, you saw you know Rashomon and the story and how it's affected uh everything that goes on in storytelling and how we perceive people and how people take in information and how people like process and even you know purport what they know. In this day and age, it's like it's rampant. There's different versions of truths and all that, and it's crazy because I didn't think that that was real until I actually examined it and realized that people can definitely find a way to see something differently. Like is what was your takeaway, Cliff, from that film, Rashomon? Like when the movie was over, how did you feel about it?
Gosh, Greg, it was so long ago. I just know the basic outline. I can't recall what I took away from it at the time, so I really can't say. I just remember the seeing it and being a powerful film at the time, and then how
Okay.
how other everyone could have a different version of reality. It was kind of bizarre. I think I saw it in college way back that
Oh, wow.
that long.
Well, here's the interesting point about the film. Like I was watching, there's a memoir that Akira Kurosawa put out, and he was talking about the themes that exist in his movies, like his whole library of films. I think he's made like 50 films or something like that. And he said that if he had to identify the theme in his movies, what he identifies is a question. And the question that he's asking in all of his films is why can't we be happier together? It's fascinating that that's the theme in his movies, that this is what he says. And by showing this struggle on Rashomon in particular, when we're talking about the different realities, the different versions of the truth that happened in that movie, there's something that happens in each of his films. And in this movie, this happens as well. There's a monk there that's listening to everyone. And he's trying to figure out, like, who's telling the truth and all this kind of thing. But he's also really losing hope in the world. He's losing hope in humanity. The world, the country's torn by war. Um, there's misinformation everywhere. He's just watching it and he's like mad at how people are just eating each other up, but he's also observing. And the thing that's interesting at the end of this movie, Rashomon, um, a child was left by some people. They abandoned a baby. And these people, there's three like guys there's one that's a woodcutter, there's one that's a local bandit, and then there's one that's the monk. They're sitting together huddled under the burning gate of Rashomon while there's a downpour. So they're telling these stories and like we can't make sense out of who actually did it, blah 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 blah. Towards the end of the film, we see the baby, and they were surprised because somebody snuck this baby into this place without them knowing. So the baby's crying like, where did this baby come from? And they all go over there to try to care for the baby or whatever. One person steals all of the stuff off of the baby, like the trinkets and all this that the parents give them, and they're like kind of upset at him for doing that. Then the monk takes the baby, but he sees that the woodcutter is like devastated that the guy would take all the baby's things, like devastated. And he's been struggling this whole time trying to figure out what he just witnessed with this trial and the thing that happened down the road. But the monk in that moment realizes, like, the woodcutter asks him for the baby. Because now who's going to take care of the baby? Like what's going to happen? The monk looks at him and just going through everything that he had gone through with this group of people, he saw that he needed connection. The woodcutter needed a connection because he was getting sick of what the world was doing to him. But he knew that in having that connection with this child, it could help him, and he wanted to help the child who is now, orphaned. And so, in seeing that, he gave the baby to the woodcutter. And he said, you know what, I thank you because what I see in you right now is what gives me hope for humanity. It's what gives me hope for what the world can be. Regardless of all this noise, we're in a shattered building, the rain's coming down forever, and all you want to do is take care of this child. That for the monk, after hearing all those stories and all this, he's like, even though there's that mess of what this world is, that piece of humanity is really what our life is. And this person, I'm gonna share the video, but this person said it beautifully. He said in all of his movies, all of Kurosawa's movies, he shows that towards the end, he says that our consciousness is more powerful. Let me start over because this is so good that I had to stop it and watch a couple times. He said our consciousness is more powerful at keeping us connected than our ego is at keeping us detached. This is a really, really deep thing for me. I think the timing is amazing thank you for Renee for asking me to talk about this because going into this and studying it it's really opened up some things for me and seeing how, I mean, most of you know that I'm really trying to put my art as in my photography, my filmmaking, and really kind of show us in this life that we're living and kind of open up what we're doing here and how we're so connected with one another. And the film Rashomon and the process of actually listening or understanding what the motive was behind this artist's work was really helps me to think about how my view is my view. Your view is your view. Your view is your view. Each one of you have your own views on what's going to happen. And I can't tell you what it's going to be. I can't tell you what is. You're going to take from it what you will. All I can do is really offer you something to look at with enough depth for you to actually chew on it and take it back. A lot of what this film is really getting at, I mean, it's a long story trying to, tell it's a long, harsh story telling you about the realities of what people go through, but it demonstrates so much of what we struggle with even today. It's almost like there's nothing new really under the sun. And we do repeat these different narratives and finding a way to showcase these things is a very interesting thing that we do as storytellers. And I think that it's always been the case. I think that every religion has a holy person that's been able to illustrate the truths behind what they believe and what we can be in a way that it's digestible for people to actually grab onto and understand and empower them to do more and be more. You know, I will go to my grave saying that the most important thing that we do in life is art and storytelling. Those are the most important. I think Ethan Hawke actually said it. He said, art is not a luxury, art is sustenance. It's sustenance for the soul, for our being as a creature on this planet, because it helps us reach into the world that is bigger than what we know. And that's something that I really, really will champion until I'm gone. And it's amazing to see so many different versions of what that can be through the artists that have come before us and even the artists that are coming after us. Yeah.
Greg, I'm looking at time, and you said you had something you want to show for us. Should I have you make you a co-host so you can share your
Uh,
screen?
no, I want to share a link. And I
Okay.
want I want everybody to take it in at their own time, at their own pace, and without the trappings of seeing everybody else and having feeling that they need to answer.
Okay.
Um, it's a it's a it's a deeply personal thing for me, this topic, this story, because it really shows you a lot about who we are. All of Kurosawa's works shows us really, really who we are in this time. And even though it was made back in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, it's pertinent right now.
Right.
Like, and for, there's, and I don't want to take up too much time with this because I know we don't have a lot of time, but I want to talk with you guys about it more, because I think the power comes from the discussion, not the talking to. Um, but there's an interesting thing that happens when we oh man, I think I just lost that train of thought. Um, yeah, I mean, I think there's an interesting thing that like we need to find a way to see deeper, to understand each other a little bit better, to understand what we're looking at a little bit better, and not be so quick to to say what is, and to actually, take the time. One of my favorite movies is Fight Club, and it's a vulgar movie. It's incredibly violent. It's wild, but the story that it's telling is so important. It's like you have to sit through the pain to actually understand what's happening. And the reason that I say that and draw that into the Kurosawa story is like I personally, and I don't know if this is true for the rest of you, but the most important things that I've learned in life came through the hardest lessons possible. You know, the things that we learn as everything is, fine and dandy and all that kind of stuff, they don't really stick the same way. But when we go through something that really gives us the opportunity to feel the tragedy and the success, we start to understand more about what the successes are. We can identify them, we can, do our best to perpetuate those going forward. And those are things that um I really admire. So there's that.
Can I start by asking you a question?
Yes, please.
You made the point that the people who were telling the different versions of the stories were eyewitnesses. And then you
Hmm.
added on and participants.
Yes.
So I'm wondering whether it may seem to be the case that and let me also mention that each of these characters had a very personal motive behind telling the story the way that they told it.
Exactly.
Very personal motive. So Do you think that it's possible that to the extent that we are more the eyewitness than that we are the participant, we have a better chance of having a more objective viewpoint of what happens?
Yeah. So the point that's made about that is like, you know, each person had an eyewitness account because they were participants in the event. But the telling of that is informed by their own implicit biases, right? Like that's what's fueling, and that's where the whole pain of finding out what the objective truth is, because these are subjective tellings, you know. And from the outside looking in, that's why they couldn't come to an agreement as to what happened. And I think that the lesson there that's being shown is like each one of us on this call, every person on this planet has had an experience that's going to inform them as to why they're wearing a white shirt today, or why they're wearing, um, or why they have the car that they have, or where they live. All of this is part of what they've experienced through life and becomes their truth. That might not be true for the next person. I think I was living when I stayed in Hawaii, there was a neighbor that asked me, we were outside and the neighbor talked to me about the fact that I was from Los Angeles. And she's like, "Oh my God, it must be so dangerous." And I was like, "Really? No, like what are you talking about? It's not that dangerous. Like, what do you think is happening in Los Angeles that you would say to a person from Los Angeles, like, you got to be careful. That's dangerous. Like or in Hawaii, here's a good one. You know, Mauna Kea is throwing lava up. Volcano's active. They're calling people on Kauai, "Are you safe?" It's like, yeah, like, there's nothing happening on the island. It's just another beautiful day. So I think that was what was on display. And I think that when we deal with people, we have to, this is an ego thing. This is a pride thing. Like we have to kind of learn to take in the fact that that's where a lot of people are coming from when they say different things and all that. They might not have all of the information, but they also might just be reacting to something that happened to them in the past, something that they know to be true that might not be right. When we can start processing like that, I think that we can start communicating in better ways to help people get to gain perspective. And these films that Kurosawa has done and many others are really doing that. It's like giving you an opportunity so that you can actually get a chance to take in how you might be able to see something that might not really be there. And it takes time. I mean, it's not like you watch a movie and then you figure everything out. I mean, the first time that I saw Rashomon, I thought it was a crazy story. And I was like, man, I wonder what happened. But then I just like let it go. Upon doing the research and all that, I'm like, oh my God, dude. And then like listening to different musics and hearing the lyrics, reading poetry and seeing how just the choice of words can make you understand something in such a different way. There's a power to it. And that's again what art does. So I think that it's a different way of seeing, it's a different perspective on life, and it's valuable. It's valuable.
Mm.
Any other questions? Please, there has to be, like, there's no quiet time when I'm talking. I need to interact with people, so please. Cliff.
Yeah, maybe just in terms of the film itself, to try and remember it, there's three people involved in the act. Is that correct?
Yes.
And then there's a court case where they're trying to find out what happened.
Right.
And then there's the woodcutter and the monk who are witnesses at the court case, but then they sit under the Rashomon bridge or gate or whatever during the pouring rain. And I like that thing in that article that all of Kurosawa's films have pouring rain,
Yeah.
but And then there's this baby that you talk about. I can't even remember that part. But do you think there's a symbolic significance of the woodcutter and the monk in this story?
Yeah, so that's the other thing about like art, right? Like true artists know how to weave in every single like detail. The fact that there was rain, all of one of the key things in all of his films, Kurosawa's films, is movement. Movement of nature, wind, rain, fire, like mudslide, avalanche. Like there's always movement, even movement with the camera,
Or runaway trains?
runaway, everything. Even just the way that the actors are moving themselves in an exaggerated fashion. A lot of that, if you what he was saying in his memoir, it illustrates like the movement of time and the movement that life is passing. Like, and it's beyond us. So you see the people in the rain and it's raining all day. It's not going to stop. You see the wind blowing and it's just tearing up their clothes and all this kind of stuff. It's like things are happening and you can't sit still. Like it's a very they said that who said it? I think Roger Ebert said it. Yeah, Roger Ebert says that Akira Kurosawa's work shows that he has a deep human understanding. Like how we pigeonhole ourselves into thinking that we're not good enough, or how we get so ramped up in our ego that it clouds our vision, how we do better when we're together. Like all of these things are wrapped up in every one of his films. And at first glance, you don't even see it. It's a subliminal almost. But then when you pull back from it, and this is why a lot of things, you take in things a lot differently over time and through rewatching, and especially as we age, things have a lot more meaning. But you see that those themes come out. And even Kurosawa said it himself. He's like, if there is a theme, it's like, why can't we do better together or be happier together? It's fascinating. It's really fascinating. So to go back to that thing, I think the idea was to show the monk is a holy man, the woodcutter is a woodcutter. He's trying to do his thing and get his wood and just like make a living in this really weird time with the world being how it was. There was wars everywhere in the country at that time. There was this really high-born person. There was the woman on the horse, and then there was her husband who was a samurai. Then there was a bandit, and then there was just a commoner. And he was trying to show the variety of people that exist, and none of them were right. You know what I mean? Like you can't. It's like you can't. Like each one of them disprove the other for whatever reasons. And that's what he was trying to show you that tangled web of you know, how do you know which way to go? You know, so that's part of that. Yes,
Marianne.
ma'am. Marianne.
Thanks, Greg. I was wondering about the form of your own documentarian work or your some of the projects. Um, it's almost like you're detached, leaving the voice of art to be the demonstration of what um, many people can experience. But when, say, it's a subject, a human, or a situation where the people are there and you're filming them or have talked to them, how much are they contributing to the presentation of the art or the communication? And just to give an example, because I sometimes talk in circles, is suppose you're working on a street scene and somebody picks up a newspaper, reads it, folds it, lights it on fire. Do you approach that person and talk to that person and say, well, why did you do that? And can I get a picture of you, looking at the ashes or something? Or are you one step removed? Or are you more involved? Or does it vary in your the way that you deliver the final project?
Yeah, it varies. And it varies
Okay.
for a few different reasons. Um, there's opportunities where you can talk to a person about their actions and all this kind of thing. And a lot of times when you do that, um, I like to capture the story, but also present it in a discovery point so that the viewer isn't discovering it as I'm discovering it. So the person that's telling the story is telling the story. Like that is their truth. That's what they're saying, and you're seeing it just like I saw it.
Mhm.
Or the other situations where I like to capture it as it's happening and not try to interfere with it because, you know, it's hard to fake things like that, and the reality of it. I mean, I've been saying this a lot lately, but everything's better in real life, so when you absolutely get a chance to capture it in a moment where something happened and you have a visual, I can tell the story, but I have to kind of leave it open-ended so people can take from it what they're going to take from it. There's a dance, documentary has opened up my eyes to a lot. The most impactful one that, I mean, Frank was on the call here. I'm directing and editing a documentary on his life. He's my photography mentor. That's very interesting all by itself because it's his life. It's the life of a human that I'm close to, but my own biases need to slow down because I was thinking it was going to be one thing and it was something completely different. And that's kind of that open-ended nature that documentary should be. Even, I was working with Cliff a few years back doing a documentary project on the homelessness issue on the island. That opened up my eyes to a lot of different things. I had a lot of preconceived notions, a lot of ego going into that, but that changed my life completely. Um, and that's what documentary is supposed to do. It's like offer the documentarian a chance to see and expose something, but through their art, help others understand a little bit deeper. And that's what that's all about.
Thank you.
Vishen, I don't know how to say your name right. Please tell me.
Shane.
Ah, Deshane. Okay, very good.
Nice
Yes,
meeting you
sir.
as well. Thank you so much for sharing your story. And as you were describing about the story about the mountains, the rain pouring, I was just kind of drawing something up and
Hmm.
contemplating on what um, this whole scenario might look like. So the scene that came to my mind was imagine there's a water coming pouring down from the heavens, which is maybe it's pure white, and
Hmm.
as it enters the surface of the earth, some water gets contaminated by some things in the air and it turns yellow.
Hmm.
Some decide to fall under mountain and they end up becoming brown in color because of the mud, and some water directly falls into the ocean turning blue in color. And each of us standing in different places, and we ask the question to everyone, hey, what is the color of the water that you're observing?
Yeah.
And you will receive different answers from so many different people. And sometimes we ask ourselves the question, who is right, who is wrong? And is anyone wrong or is anyone right? And that made me to think about that, this colors in which the water has been lying somewhat also determines the conditioning or the environment, the surrounding, the
Hmm.
our religion, perhaps, in ways our society is set up. We are this different lights in different types of bodies having different colors and conditioning, and it will appear differently. But at the end of the day, it's all the same. It's all still the water. At the end of the
It's
day,
all still the water.
when it will get evaporated, it will turn back again to pure white.
Hmm.
Now, the question comes to my mind is, as an artist now, if you position yourself in all these different places and you're trying to express a story of different conditioned water to showcase that it is still a water. And first, I guess the first question is, the first kind of characteristics comes to my mind is non-judgmental, that being able to observe the essence of that energy as opposed to what you are observing, what your eyes are able to see versus what might it true essence might be. And I felt that an artist the one who is able to reveal its true essence as opposed to its conditioning is, I think, it's one of the key roles of being an artist, I feel. And I would love to hear from your perspective if there are other perspectives or traits as an artist that you keep in your mind, or at least in your practice, that allows you to see that.
Yes, that's all of that is very true. And what's going to happen with that, how I can answer that best is like this really comes down to who the artist is and what motivates them at becoming an artist. What their overall message is. You do have artists that are out there that are, monetarily driven. They might be stuck doing trendy stuff and this is interesting right now, and then they switch to the next thing and all that. But then you might see, artists that are more thoughtful about why they're doing the art, and they want to show the world. I think Sebastião Salgado is my favorite photographer, if I had to name one. And his practice was, he thought that he had to show the world to us. Like he was out all over the planet taking pictures in a time where people had never seen Africa, might have read something in the papers, but they've never seen the faces of the people in the tribes that were going through the suffering and the famines. And he was photographing that and bringing that back to us. That became his purpose. He was documenting the earth, the Arctic, the Amazon, the animals, the wildlife that we'd only heard stories about, but he was doing this with this beautifully creative eye to bring that back to us to understand what was in the world with us. That was his purpose. I think most of the artists that we really gravitate towards, you can sense that purpose in their work. There's a million different artists out there, and I don't really knock any of them, but there are artists that demonstrate a purpose of sharing more of what they see the world to be. And I think these are the artists that we remember. I mean, Michael Jackson and music, like the way that he approached music was pretty different than the way that a lot of different artists do. Um, Painters, like, dancers, like there's people that move and dance because that's what they have to do. That's what their spirit is doing. And us seeing them do that is uplifting, inspiring, and all those things. So I think, you know, in my practice, I'm really trying to showcase our community, showcase our brotherhood, our connectivity between all of us. Like I want that to be present in all of the work that I do, even, and so to answer it, yes, you can show it, but you can also see it. I think the viewer can see it, they can hear it. And one of the things that I do a couple of classes with Saphir when we're talking to some students in the design center, and they're showing us their projects. And a lot of them were like kind of step and repeat, step and repeat. And one of my critiques to them was simply, I when I read through this, I want to hear your voice. Like I want to know this is yours. I want to see your fingerprint in what you're doing because that shows me that you believe what you're doing. That's when I can believe in you. So I think that comes out in the work that's what I try to do with my work, and I admire artists who do that. I mean, Still a Moving Center is actually an example of that. It's not like we're just having these talks for no reason or that the programming is what it is just because this is something that Cliff and Renee believe in, and they're speaking it, they're being it. And that's a powerful example of what we're talking about. Cliff.
Let me lower my hand here. I I read this article about the Rashomon movie, and basically it was saying that Akira Kurosawa doesn't really, at the end, say that there is a right perspective.
Right.
Just there's all these different perspectives, but a lot of movies that kind of tried to follow the line of Rashomon, they at the end kind of said, "Uncle, there is a truth. Here's the truth.
Yeah.
Here's all these
Yeah.
viewpoints, but there is a truth." And the theme for the discussion today is the real and the unreal. And I think Akira Kurosawa is throwing us a hardball saying, is all reality subjective? Is there actually objective reality? And, you know, you can go back to Kellyanne Conway saying that I'm talking about alternative facts.
Yeah.
And the entire science community said, in science, there's no such thing as alternative facts. There's only facts.
Right.
And so there is, to a large extent of humanity, there is reality. There is reality. We just have different approaches to it and confusion about it. But ultimately, we can get to it. One of my favorite quotes is, "The ideal is only truth at a distance," and that the ideal of brotherhood is actually a truth. It's a fact. I mean, just a kindergartner, you can say, you know, all human beings, if you go back 100 generations, we're all of one family. If you go back
Yeah.
to the source of the universe, we all come from the same source. We're all interconnected. We're all one.
Yeah.
But we tend to do all this smoke and mirrors about this. But I mean, ultimately, in terms of this discussion about real and unreal, can't we all agree that if we were able to get, if we were wise enough, we would be able to see reality? Isn't that what wisdom,
Absolutely.
isn't that what wisdom's about? Is actually being able to know what is fundamentally real?
Yep. And that's absolutely true. I think I would agree with all of that. And it's actually where it kind of gets dangerous because she said that it's terrible that she said it the way that she said it. There's no context to it, right? And she's just like a broad, like, oh, there's alternative facts and all this kind of thing. And the idea of the Rashomon movie, there's part of that is true, but in the scientific world, you're absolutely right. Science has a right and wrong. Either this works or this does not work. That's it. That's it. So it's like understanding context and like helping people like might not know this conversation at all. They might not even understand what the Rashomon effect is. That's that's something that we have to like I said, have a chance to draw ourselves back, engage with people in a way to help them to understand. And like Kurosawa said, you know, our conscious is more powerful at keeping the connection than our ego is at keeping us detached. The ego, all the systems that we have built up around this society and this world that's real right now is based upon that. And that part is what, you know, we have to kind of navigate some different waters to get to what is true for all of us. The fact that when we're together, we're hugging each other, we're laughing, we're dancing, and it's really like that everywhere you go. You know, I mean, I've had those experiences. Saphir knows, like I'm part of his family now in Morocco. It's crazy. I have like I didn't even know that I'd have family in Morocco, but now I do. You know, and this is, you know, half a world away in a completely different culture. So, you know, I think that what we need to really do is find a way to dispel our own fears, our own biases, to understand more of what we're going or who we're talking to, why we're talking to them, and also look at ourselves. Like Kurosawa says some crazy things. Like, I mean, I don't want to give you everything that's in this video because I want you to really watch it and process it. But, you know, he was asking people to look at, you know, if we think that basically, he said if we look at this conversation about not understanding who's telling the truth, it makes us not really know who to trust, right? And that starts playing with our ego a little bit, like who's where is it going to be safe and all this kind of stuff. But that's also not real because he turns it around and he's asking people like he's showing that people don't really have a lot of trust in themselves. Because when they do, it's a different conversation. But that's a deeper thing. I'm gonna let you guys see it in the video. Saphir, please.
Thank you, Greg, and hi everyone. Sorry I was off camera before, but I'm at my destination, and I wanted to build on the topic of real versus unreal in the context of my teaching at Art Center College of Design, I teach a class that's focused on AI powered creative workflows. Right. I'm going to lower my hand because it feels like I'm still trying to interject. And one of the conversations we have very often, pretty much every week, is, well, look at what AI can generate, right? AI can generate stuff that is completely indistinguishable from reality, right? You don't have to be a VFX or a VFX artist, or someone with very complex technical skills to be able to generate something that looks completely real, but that is not, right? And so that is also a measure of our. So the thing that we end up aligning on is the importance of remembering how we as human beings, human creatives, human creators, have a role to play in this, and how we are in how we create, but also how we interpret artistic content. We are imperfect, right? We each have our biases. We each have our specific personal point of view, but this comes from the fact that we are each incredibly unique. We all have a provenance that is very different from anybody else, right? No computer system can synthesize that, right? We were born somewhere. We lived through experiences that have really shaped who we are. We've seen things. We develop emotional connections with the things we see, the things we create. And it's really important for each and everyone to think about our role as human beings and human creatives in today's world, right?
Yeah.
Especially given everything that's happening, especially given the fact that reality or truth is being, interpreted in so many ways. And so, what I like to tell my students, and Greg has been part of that effort to impart that in them, which is, whatever you do, bring your own person, bring your own heart into what you do. Don't try to create something that is not you, because your person, your identity, your personal identity, your creative perspective is unique to you, and that is your fingerprint, right? Nobody can copy that. And
Yep.
so this is something that I think is very timely. It's a very timely topic to discuss, and I think we could spend hours on this.
Absolutely. We're scratching the surface, man. There's so much to even say to that. Like, even some of my photography students, I often tell them, stop taking pictures of what you've seen and take pictures of what you see. There's so
Yeah.
much in that, because that I think is what's real to me. Going back to the conversation about what's real and what's not, it's like, if you're presenting what your experience is, like that could be a very real exposure point for people that don't live in your world, and that can help you process more of what's around you and how to move through this life. That's insanely powerful right now, because we have the opportunity to do that, and I think we must. Yeah. There's also an interesting point too about the Rashomon effect. The thing that's very interesting is that our memory system is flawed as well. So when we remember things and recount them, it gets a little fuzzier every time we do. So our telling of these different things, these different realities, I mean, I can tell you something that happened when I was a kid, and I might be completely wrong at this point. you know. And my grandma actually told me a story about something that happened that I could not, that happened to me, that everybody was talking about, and I did not remember at all. And so that was just like something to add on to, like, the complexity of it, and the call for us to like really let the ego down, take in as much as we can so that we can form a proper understanding of the world around us. Yeah.
With the story of Rashomon and the not just witnesses, but participants who are telling the story in court, they each have such a personal motive for telling the story that the way that they do,
Yeah.
that it could be said that they weren't even telling the truth. They knew they were
Right.
lying because,
Yeah.
and they were telling that story because they would benefit in some way
Exactly.
from that.
Exactly.
So that seems to be an instance where we're seeing the unreality because there is so much personal connection and bias. And this is probably why Kurosawa perceives that we can't get along together, is whenever we're in that kind of really personal bias, we can't connect with other people because we're so busy protecting ourselves and projecting
Yes.
out what we want people to think about us, etc. Whereas
Exactly.
it seems like this saving grace that he presents us with by the very end of the movie is we have this monk, and he is a monk who's losing hope in humanity, especially seeing all this lying or misperception or reporting of events in such contradictory ways that it can't be true what each of them is saying, because there's also contradictory, and there's a reason that they each say it the way that they do. And then it seems like he takes this deep view when the baby is found, and he sees, okay, yeah, he has this questioning about humanity himself, but he sees that the woodcutter is really suffering from that, right? And he sees that this woodcutter is now asking to be the one to care for the baby. And there's no personal motive in the monk's perception of that. He has this very clear view. This would be good for the baby that's been abandoned. This would be good for the woodcutter who needs to have a human connection again. And so we get the satisfaction of a truth. Someone has perceived a truth, and that's how the movie ends.
Yep.
And that gives so much soul satisfaction. And the monk had nothing to gain by perceiving it in the way that he did.
Yeah. That's the magic in the storytelling, and going back to the point earlier about how you have to kind of endure some of the discomfort to find things at times,
Yeah.
and again, going back to that, like most of the things that really, really sink in are those things that we've had to, find a little pain to get through because we had an experience getting to the point of revelation, and it's again, we can learn arithmetic at a dance party and forget it the next day, but if we're, really going through it and you have to figure out, like, I need to figure out this arithmetic right now to get out of this situation. Like, if I can't figure out how to compute this lock to get it to open before the water rises, you will never forget how to count to get that thing open. It won't happen. It won't happen. It's burned in at that point. I'm gonna in the chat right now, I put a link. Okay. That link is an amazing breakdown by one of the film philosophers that I kind of like study. He breaks down movies and he basically is telling about, the purpose or I'm sorry, the humanistic nature of Kurosawa's work.
Beautiful.
I strongly, strongly suggest that you watch this like right now while this topic is like fresh in your head, because this film is just one example of what we're talking about. All of his work is the same theme in different versions of the reality that we live in. Some more modern, some more ancient, some bleak, some not so bleak, but it's all different ideas, different examples of what we're talking about. And that's what we see in, you hear a musician doing, a ton of different musics, a dancer doing a ton of different dance performances, all the different meals you've had at the best chef's place. Like all these different examples of what these lives or stories can be are on display. And I think that this video that I've just shared will help you to digest a little bit more of what Akira Kurosawa was doing as an artist, but also how those stories really resonate with even what we're doing. And personally, because like I said, I mean, I saw myself so much in these films, even in Rashomon, and I'm like, wow, I forgot that that's what films are supposed to do. Because a lot of them now are just, you know, they're like fodder. But even the movies that are
Thank you,
out
Greg.
now, yeah, even the movies that are out now, they have something to share. But this is high speed philosophy.
Oh, thank you. Well, I'm going to let you know. I'm going to ask, first of all, for people to consider who might want to give Greg a vote of thanks while I tell you about next week, where we are taking up the conversation of the golden age. We're shifting gears. And the golden age perspective, I think. To that, we're going to look at it from the standpoint of the Ramayana, which Still Moving Center presents in an enacted story form every year at the Indian celebration of Diwali. So a lot of us are familiar with the story of the Ramayana, and so that that takes place in something of a golden age, or by the time we get to the end of it, where we've moved into a golden age. The person who played the part of Rama 1 year is giving us the presentation. It could have been done by Duchesne, who played the part last year for us. Instead, it's going to be given by Z Riella. And so we'll look forward to that next week. And I wondered who would like to give a vote of thanks to Greg for a really thoughtful, and well-prepared presentation this week. Mary.
Mahalo, Greg. I didn't share anything, but I just will say I thought of looking in the mirror, because when we watch something, we hear something, we want to know how it relates to us. And a good thing to do is to look in the mirror. And then you also talked about different memories. And I have two sisters. We're all 2 years apart, and we all have different memories about the same event. So it's in our families. It's in us. But
It's in us.
thank you for a wonderful, thought-provoking hour.
Thank you
Love
so
you
much.
all.
Thank you. If I can ask you guys to, when you've watched the video, the link that I've sent you, send a note to Renee of what you took away from it. It's as a homework assignment. Like I really like to hear the varying takeaways from what we did.
You can even put your either your telephone number or your email address in there, and they could send it to us both.
Yeah, I'll do that. Here's my email address right here. This is going to be a very interesting exercise, and I definitely like for people to do a little bit of work. So here we go. Boom. That's my email address. Um, but yes, watch this, let it sink in, and please reply with your thoughts on it. And off, like I said, following our conversation, I think that it's something to really like participate in.
On my keyboard, if I scan over, for example, that address for to go watch the film.
Hmm.
Do a control C for copy, and then I can drop it into something else with a control V, like Victor, for paste. Do you want me to say it again? Control C for copy. You scan over that link and you do a control C or command C. And then you can drop it wherever you'd like to, like into your browser, for example. It was the control V, like Victor, for paste. And that will drop it in. Yeah, go ahead. Can you unmute, Mom? Nice to have you.
Greg, I was looking so forward to hearing and seeing you today, and I was thinking about a 3-hour time difference instead of a 2 hour. So that's what
No
happened.
problem. No problem. It was really good to see you come in. Nice to see you, Nancy.
No, I'm just so sorry that I missed it. I can't keep track of which is 2 hours and which time during the year is 3 hours, I guess.
A few weeks, it's going to change, and it will be 3 hours. So then you'll be right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'll do 2 hours.
But we definitely we recorded this as well, so you can play it back. And then yeah, you can still do that homework as well. The video is pretty powerful, but I think you should watch what we talked about first before watching that video. For you,
Okay.
Nancy. Everybody else go do your homework.
Thanks, Greg.
Thank you so much. Wonderful.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Cheers.